Afolabi Akindele, Principal Career Consultant, Career Edge Limited. Akindele is the convener of the Career Rethink Conference, a business model use certified practitioner. He helps individuals and organizations reinvent and design their career by shifting focus from skills to value addition, a better approach to career growth and development in a dynamic business world. He is equally a CCS UK accredited career coach. He holds an MSc in Service Management and Design from the University of Warwick, UK, with distinction. He teaches fundamental career principles both in and out of Nigeria, steering people towards having a meaningful career. He is a member of the faculty of the University of Ibadan Business School. He authors the Christian Employee Series, a weekly knowledge sharing platform that teaches practical application of biblical principles for career success. He will be speaking on Reinventing Your Career in a Changing World, a business model approach to career development.
To you on a topic that I believe it's very, very important to us in this current time. How to adopt a business model approach to career development. In the next few minutes, I will be talking through certain part. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is for us to look at what is happening currently in the world of career. And we will be taking a global perspective to that. And I'm also going to talk about why the need for a business model approach to career development. Under this, we are going to understand what is a business model, and we're going to look also at how this can apply to our careers. And I'm going to talk about the benefits of adopting a business model approach to career management. Why are we talking about a business model when we are dealing with career? Why must we think of adopting a business model? The benefits are some of the things that I'm going to be talking to you about this thing. Then also the things that can happen to your career when you adopt a business model approach to the development. Now, to start with, let's look at what is going on around in the world. Now, for each of us listening to me at this time, if you check very well, I believe that in the last maybe 2 or 3 months, you will probably have a friend or a relative or someone that you know who may probably have lost his or her job. I want us to know that this is a current reality, is something that is happening as a result of the changes that organizations are going through. And I don't know, I can't say that it's going to end soon, but that's one of the realities that we need to confront, with at this present age. Now, some of us, we want to change our career. We feel that we are bogged down in what we are doing. We are thinking of another career, but we don't really know how. And another thing is, organizations nowadays are not able to meet their obligations. And so because of that, they are asking people to go, they are right-sizing, they are closing down part of their businesses, they are changing their business model. These are things that either directly or indirectly impart on our career development. And I want to say this, in all fairness to employers, in all fairness to organizations, organizations are by default selfish in career development. This is what I mean. They are only going to be interested in your career development to the extent to which it benefits the organization. Yes, you might say that they are training you, they are preparing you for the future and all that. But I want you to know that an organization will not train you in the area of your passion. They will not train you in the area of your interest. They will only train you in the area where you are working, where you are adding value to the organization. Now, this might not be a problem, you will say, but the problem is, what if something should happen to that organization? Are you going to be relevant somewhere else? About some months ago, I wrote an article posted on LinkedIn on in whose hands is your career. Now, the thing is, some of the things I talked about is that we all must take ownership of our career, because you can't, this is not the time where you leave it to an organization that is not even sure of what is going to happen to it tomorrow. So the question is this: if anything should happen to your organization, how are you going to take it? How is it going to impact you? This is why you must understand that, yes, you need to begin to think about your own career development and not leave it to your organization. And so when I say that organizations are justifiably selfish, that is what I mean. Whatever they are doing, whatever form of investment they are putting into you is just for their own benefit, which is fine. But where it becomes a problem is when, if anything should happen to that organization, if anything should happen to that industry, will you still be relevant somewhere else? The skills that you have acquired, the value that you are adding in that organization, will it still be relevant in another place? Now, I don't know how many of you have read this book, The Shift, The Future of Work is Already Here by Linda Gretton. In that book, she identified 5 forces shaping our future. And I'm going to run through them quickly. Number 1 is the force of technology. Number 2 is the force of globalization. Number 3 is the force of demography. Number 4 is the force of the society, and force of energy resources. Let me just stay on the force of energy alone. Now let's look at this. You are listening to this conference online. Traditionally, maybe you will have assembled in a hall, sit down, and be watching me speak to you. But that has changed now. With the use of technology, we can, project this live to you at the comfort of your home. Now, in what way is technology impacting your job? There is no job here on earth today that is not being impacted by technology. Even your common taxi drivers. Organizations like Uber, they have come and they have taken a chunk of their market from them. Now, you can just imagine a common taxi driver driving his car on the road, wakes up in the morning, jumps on the road, is driving looking for passengers, and somebody thought that we can do it in a better way. So you can now sit in the comfort of your home rather than going to the street and be waving down at a taxi. Now you can sit in the comfort of your room and order for a taxi, and it will come and wait at the front of your house. And it is going to even tell you that I am here, you can come out now. Then you walk in gently, into the taxi, and you go wherever you want to go. Who could have imagined that technology is going to have such effect on transportation in that sense? So the force of technology is something that we all must reckon with, is shaping our future, and we need to begin to look at how we are being imparted. Then again, the force of globalization. We are now in a global village, as they call it. So whatever is happening outside of Africa, can actually have an impact on your job, wherever you are. Somebody is there, maybe in India, maybe in the US, in the UK, developing a software that has the potential of taking your job away from you. And the thing is, you don't even have to go over there to have access to that software. Right where you are on your desk, you can have access to that software. And that thing can take your job away from you. People are coming from different places, to your country, to wherever you are, to come and work. Because they have certain skills that is needed in your country, wherever you are. And because it is now easier, because organizations are going global, I believe because, of the force of technology, now it is possible for somebody in the US to come to a place like Ghana, to come to Nigeria, to come and work. It is easier for somebody to even sit in those countries. Take, for instance, call centers. There are organizations that have outsourced their call centers to other countries. And so you are in your country, you pick a call, you have an issue with the company, and you put a call through, and somebody is answering you from another country and is speaking clearly that you can hear the person. This is a force of globalization. So these are some things that we need to begin to ask ourselves questions. For instance, what will I be doing in 2025? Who will I be reporting to? How will my reporting relationship be? What is it that will have taken away my job? What skills must I need to acquire? What are the skills of the future? There are certain jobs that we have now that they were not in existence some years ago. But now we have them, and people now have to develop their skills in those aspects. So these are some of the things that we need to ask ourselves, that in 10, 20, 15 years to come, what are those things that will keep me awake at night? What are those things that I will have to think about as far as my career is concerned? So it is dangerous for any of us to ignore these changes that is so pervasive. Organizations are going lean. They have to right size. I was discussing with someone recently who works in a major oil company. And he was telling me that the organization is moving away from oil. That now they are talking about power. They are talking about solar energy. Okay? And because of that, they have to begin to restructure the organization. So what happens to the engineers that go on to the rigs and all that? Maybe, if not all of them, maybe some of them, will have to lose their job. I don't know, I can't say that. But the thing is, the organization is shifting its focus because of the pressure from the market. So these are the things that are happening around us, and we must not ignore that. We must pay attention to all these things, so that we can actually take control of our career. What has brought us into the present, we must understand, cannot take us into the future. Okay? Maybe before now, you go to school, you study a particular course, you come out of school, you write a test or whatever, and you are able to get a job, and you keep doing the job. Yes, that's good and fantastic. But what I'm trying to say is, this cannot take us to the future. This cannot take us to the possibilities that are yet unknown coming up in the future as a result of these forces as recorded in the shift that are shaping our future. And so because of that, we need to start to rethink our career development. We need to adopt a business model approach to career management. Now, talking about business model, what really is business model? Why do we're talking about business, what has that got to do with career development? Now, let's understand it first from the perspective of the business. Now, a business model is a logic through which an organization sustains itself financially. Okay? It includes all the activities that define how an organization exists. Okay? According to a definition which I have, I said a firm's business model is its plan or diagram for how it competes, uses its resources, structures its relationships, interfaces with customers, and creates value to sustain itself on the basis of the profits it generates. Am I saying that individuals are the same as companies? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is there is a parallel between the two. The same factors that are affecting businesses, that some of them are closing down, that some of them are having to reinvent themselves, are also affecting individual factors. I talked about the shift, the future of work is here, and I as identified in that book 5 forces that are shaping that are shaping individuals' future. If you look at those forces, the force of technology, the force of globalization, energy, resources, the force of society, the force of demography, all these things also are affecting businesses. Businesses are leveraging this, to reinvent themselves, to change their model, so that they can still be able to sustain themselves financially while adding value to customers. So that is the basis on which, we are introducing the business model approach to career management. Adopting a business model approach to our career development. Let me give you some reasons why you must begin to think along that line. Now, we cannot describe our future as a straight journey from the past into the present and from the present into the future. Because the future holds possibilities for us that are yet unknown. Some of us now, we're not projecting into what we are doing currently, because they seem to be impossible some years back. Okay? So, being able to plan into the future by considering various factors. It's one of the reasons why you should begin to think about the business model approach to your career development. Now, another thing is a large chunk of what we are experiencing in the job market today, are being driven by forces that are beyond our control. There are certain things that we cannot do about it. For instance, the force of technology. You can't hold it back. The force of globalization, you can't stop it. The force of the society, the force of demography that we are experiencing in our workplaces now, we cannot do anything about them. So also, organizations that we work for, the forces that are affecting them, that are making them to take the decisions that are taken today, those forces are also beyond their control. How many organizations do you see today that have closed down? Do they just wake up one day and say, we want to close down because we're not interested in running business? No, because there are things that are happening that probably they were not aware of and has brought change to them suddenly, or they've been able to try to strive, but because things are just not working, then they have to pack up. So these same organizations that we depend on, that we rely on, are going through changes caused by factors that are beyond their control. Another thing that I want us to put in mind is change in one industry can affect change in other industries. Let's take an example. The price of crude went down, from where it was, some years back. And a whole lot of other organizations, because of that, even though they didn't have anything to do directly with oil exploration or selling of oil, they were affected. Take, for instance, banks could no longer do business as usual, because some of where they get their money from is from the oil sector, the money that they trade with. So because of that change in the oil and gas sector, banking sector was affected. So many other sectors were affected, and people in that sectors had to begin to find something else to do. Some people lost their job, some people experienced salary cuts, and so many other things. So we can't just begin to think alone about what you are doing. Whatever profession you find yourself, you can't keep yourself within that. You need to begin to think about other things, other industries that may impact on your job. You need to begin to think of what can change in sector A that can affect what you are doing now. A business model approach, which we are going to look at, can help you to begin to reason along that line. Another reason why you should begin to think in line with business model approach is that career planning that does not take account, of improvising is already a flaw. You cannot plan your career into the future, because the future is really not certain. So you must, instead of career planning, you must be able to improvise your career. And one thing that the business model does for organization is that it helps them to quickly adapt to changes. It's very flexible. So when they look at, for instance, their customers, they ask themselves, how are we adding value to them? If it is changing, if the channel through which they add value to the customer is changing, then immediately they adjust that, so that they continue to stay in business. So these are some of the reasons why we must be able to adopt a business model thinking to our career management. Now, what can happen to your career when you begin to adopt a business model thinking? I'm going to look at this from two perspectives. The perspective of people who are just who are just starting their career, maybe a fresh graduate, and from people who are currently working. I want to focus first on the new entrants into their career. Certain things that can happen when you begin to adopt a business model approach, which will now force you to separate yourself, from the traditionalists. The traditionalist in this sense, someone that graduates from school, whatever you have studied, and you begin to check online newspapers to look for jobs that you will apply for. Now, when you begin to adopt a business model thinking to your career management, certain things can happen. Number one is that you begin to satisfy the market. This is what I mean, fulfilling an unanswered career need. Now, it happens that you have a business model to your career. You've been able to consider the various factors. So as you are going, you are looking, what is that need that is yet to be answered? Because if you're talking about business model, you need to understand something. Your customer, and secondly, the value that you are adding to them. Okay, so by adopting a business model thinking, you are able to satisfy a market because you look, okay, what are current fresh graduates doing? Where are they being employed? You look at yourself, in which area can I have value? And so with that, you are able to go into the market fulfilling an unanswered need, and that gives you a leverage over every other person that just comes out from school and they are applying for a job. The second thing that can happen is you bring to market. What I mean by that is you bring a new skill, a new form of service, to the market. You try to exploit an existing knowledge, okay, and you now push it into the market as a new thing. Then the third one is to improve the market. Okay, you can do something better than what people are currently doing. You can disrupt the market. Let me give you an example. We have iPhone, iPad, iTunes, and all that. This has disrupted the way that we access music. If you think back, some years back, I remember at the time when I was in school, if you had a Walkman, you were a big boy. And this changed to carrying a Discman, and you are able to have maybe 1 or 2 CDs. I remember I was going with a friend some years back. We were working in a campus, and he saw a guy, with packs of CDs. And it was kind of dazed that, wow, somebody had this number of CDs. But now, today, it's a different story. So what happened to your CD player, your Discman, your Walkman, and all those things that we were using to access music before? Now you can access any form of music on your phone. iTunes has done it so much that, any form of music, as long as it is released, you can access it right immediately. Okay, so this has come with a disruption. Now what I'm trying to tell you is that you can look at, based on what you are able to do, the area you want to add value, then you ask yourself that, okay, what can I do differently from what people are already doing? Another thing is to create a market, to create an entirely new type of job, new type of career. Now you might be asking me, how is this possible? Let me give you an example. I was driving one day and I was listening to a program. I think they call it Women in Business or something. And it was a young lady that was speaking. Now, she was working as a PA, and after a time, she said she got bored, and she began to ask herself, what can I do? What skills do I have? Now, she said she remembered that, okay, when she was in school, she used to cook. She used to help people cook. And how did she come about this? She was just cooking one day, and somebody was just making comment about, her food and all that. And so they asked her if she could cook for them. And from there, she began to do it. She said she was even doing it for free. Okay? So when she realized that, okay, I was doing this in school, even though I was not charging anybody for it, can I come up with something? So what she began to do is, going around making different types of soup for people, and selling it to them. Now, she didn't stop at that. Now that she found a market for that, what she now began to do is, okay, I can't just be, selling soup. What other things can I do? She began to teach people how to make some of this soup. So if you are interested in making soup, come to our lesson. Come to our class. She will teach you how to make the soup. And she started making money from that. So somebody like that is a graduate that had worked for maybe about 2 years, working as a PA, but she discovered that I was not just fulfilled. And because she was able to sit back and ask, who is my customer? What value can I add to them? She was able to create a new job for herself. So that's what I mean by creating a new job, for yourself, coming to the market, with a new job, with a new career. It is possible. Now, everything that I've said, there are certain challenges that you must bear in mind, okay, when you are approaching the business model thinking. Number one is, how do I find the right model? Number two is, how do you test your model before a full-scale launch? Okay, I mean, it's not advisable that maybe you have an idea and you think, okay, it's going to work. You must first be able to test it to know if it is viable or not. Okay, the other thing is, how do you induce the market to adopt your new model? Okay, whatever it is that you are thinking, you want to improve on a particular career line, you want to create something new, you must be able to find out how you can induce the market to adopt your new model. Now, the other thing is how to continuously adapt your model in response to market feedback. I think this is one area that most people fail in business and in career, especially when you're adopting a business model thinking. Organizations don't, the wise one, they don't just, launch out like that, okay? They test the market. They get feedback. There are certain things that they do that ensure that they get feedback, which they now bring back, to refine whatever product or service that they are introducing into the market. Now, for you to adopt a business model thinking, you must be able to also do such thing. Then another challenge is, how do you manage uncertainty? There are certain things that you have not done before that you want to begin to do now. Okay, how do you manage such uncertainty? So these are some of the things that you consider when adopting a business model approach to your career as a new entrant into the career space. Now, let me go quickly to the other sector, which are the employees. Now, there are certain things also that a business model thinking can help you to do. The bottom line is that as we define a business model, as the logic through which a business sustains itself financially, all the activities that are involved, in a business, from making money and satisfying their customer needs. So, if you're talking about a business model as far as your career is concerned, being an employee, what we are saying is, how can you ensure that you are financially sustainable? Not just being financially sustainable, also how can you ensure that you are doing something that you love, and at the same time, that is making money for you. So that's what it means when you're adopting a business model thinking as an employee. So the first thing that it does is you become reactive when you're adapting a business model thinking. What am I saying? There are people that today, they lost their jobs. Which is quite unfortunate. But the challenge now is they were not prepared for that. They were not thinking of what happens when I lose my job. So when you have a business model approach to your career, at every point in time, you know where you are. Okay, so when things are going wrong, you are able to develop a new business model to manage the crisis that you might be facing in your existing career. So the first thing is, it makes you to be reactive. Now, the second is, it makes you adaptive. And this is when you adjust, you improve, or you defend your current career. When you adopt a business model thinking, you are able to see that, okay, these are the threats that are coming to my career, and you are able to stand, okay? When you refine your business model, you identify where the gaps are, and you know what you're supposed to do right now so that you can maintain your space. But I'm going to advise that you should not dwell on this so much, because when disruption comes, it might be impossible for you to be able to adapt. When the old landscape has changed, when somebody else comes with a totally new business model, and change the space where you are trying to defend, it might affect your market. Let me give an example, in the product cycle. Many of us, we know the BlackBerry very well, and I think at the time, BlackBerry was the in thing. If you don't have a BlackBerry, you are not there yet. Now, BlackBerry was trying to defend its market, to defend its space. And I will tell you one of the things that, for long, BlackBerry did not do. People were, the coming of Android, for instance, was a major threat, to BlackBerry. And when people were able to do so much with their Android phones, with their iPhones and all that, and what's it called now? BBM was still there trying to defend its space, trying to some of these apps that we use on Android and all that, it was trying to, protect itself. It wanted to create a unique market for itself. It wanted to defend the space that it had occupied. But you realize that at the time, okay, because of the disruption that came, BlackBerry was taken totally out of the market. So that's why I would advise that you tread cautiously when you are being adaptive. Now, another thing, that can happen is being expansive. That's when you launch a new career. So many people are doing that now, because things are changing. People are developing new career because what they were doing before has totally changed. Okay, so when you adopt a business model of thinking, I'm going to still talk more about this when we look at your personal model canvas, so that you can understand the process. When you adopt that model of thinking, you are able to launch a new career. Just like, an organization will launch a new idea, following the different procedures, testing the market, checking if it's going to work, getting feedback from people before they now come out, to say, okay, this is what we are going to focus on. You can't just launch a new career that at the end of the day, you are not going to be adding any value. Okay? So now the final one, as an employee is being proactive, being explorative. That's about preparing for the future. Being able to project in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, what's going to happen. And because of that, you begin to prepare yourself, for the skills that will be relevant then. I don't know how many of us are today asking ourselves that in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, what skills would be relevant? And we are beginning to prepare ourselves for such skills. A business model thinking can help you, to focus on that so that you can develop, yourself in anticipation of what is going to happen in the future. Just like we have challenges, for the new entrant, we also have challenges for employees that are trying to adopt a business model thinking. And some of those challenges are, one, you have to develop an appetite for a new model. What am I trying to say? You don't have to be complacent with what you are doing now. Yes, you have a model. You have adopted a business model thinking. But what I'm saying is this model, must constantly be changing. Because the forces out there that are affecting your career, the forces out there that are affecting your organizations, they are changing. So you must constantly be open to adopting new business model. Then the other one is, how do you align your old model to your new business model? The process of transition. This is another challenge. But all these things have solutions, which we may not be able to go into details today. Then another thing is how to manage vested interest. Nobody is an island on its own. Whatever you are doing, there are other parties that have interest. Maybe your family, your wife, your kids, and all that. So how in your adopting a business model thinking, how do they come in? You need to be able to answer this. Who are your key partners? Okay? Who are the people that you must always factor in, and how does your, business model thinking affect them? Then again, how to maintain a focus on the long term. Many of us, we think short term. Okay? As long as you are doing fine today, you think maybe that's the end. But we need to begin to think long term. We need to be able to ask ourselves, okay, in the next few months, in the next few years, what is going to be happening? While at the same time still being present in whatever you are doing. So having said that, now I'm going to take us through the 4 steps, to adopting a business model thinking to your career. 1, you have to draw your personal business model canvas. And 2, you have to reflect. What do I mean by that? You need to revisit your life direction and think on how you want to align your personal and career aspirations. Now, this is where you ask yourself, who am I? What is my career purpose? Now, the 3rd step is to revise, that is to adjust or reinvent your work life using the canvas and the discoveries that you have made about yourself. So here, you want to redraw your personal business model canvas. Yes, you have started with one already, but based on the discoveries that you have made about yourself, you want to redraw it to align with your purpose, to align with your personal aspirations, to align with the realities in your environment. And finally is to act. Learn to make it happen, whatever it is that you have developed using your business model canvas. So you need to calculate what is your business value. You need to be able to test the market. And you need to ask yourself the question, now that I have a business model, what is next? Okay, so this is what you do in the last phase. But I'm going to dwell much on the first step, which is to draw your personal business model canvas. And now I'm going to be using the 9 building blocks, of business model created by Alex Osterwalder. Now let's look at this first as it applies to business. Now if you look at the 9 building blocks, okay, now the first thing you see there is we have customers, okay, an organization exists to serve customers. Then you have the customer relationship, and these are the form of relationship that you establish with your customers. Organizations establish and maintain different kinds of relationship with customers by solving customer problems or satisfying customer needs. This is the value that you provide. And there must also be some channels through which you communicate and deliver the value in different ways. And all this will translate to revenue for the organization. That is the money that comes in when customers pay for the value that you provide. Now, for all these things to happen, for there to be revenue, we understand that there must be customers who are getting some values. But this cannot stand alone. There are other things that support it. Now, the first is your key activities. These are the actual tasks and actions required to create and deliver the other elements that we have seen, the value that you provide. Then you also have the key resources, and these are the assets, needed by businesses to create or deliver their value. And also key partners. These are the activities that these are the people that you work with, either the people that do one or two things for you, and at the end of the day, that help you to provide the value that you are offering to your customers. So all these amount to your cost. Now, when you take your cost away from your revenue, that's when you have a profitable organization. So this is just how it works for an organization. Now, let's now take it to the personal business model canvas. Okay, how does it apply to individual? So for your customers, the question there is, who do you help? Who do you help? And the value that you are adding to them is, how do you help? Okay, so this requires that you maintain a form of relationship with your customer, and that answers the question, how do you interact with your customers? And also, your customers, how do they know that you deliver a particular value? That is the channel. Okay, so when you bring all these together, it comes to revenue and benefits. So as far as you are concerned, the person that you are helping could be your employer, or could be some other people there that derive a benefit from you, either at a cost or at a subsidized rate, or even possibly, free. Now again, the value that you are providing to them, okay, is the bundle of products and services that you deliver to them. I always encourage individuals to think, about their colleagues as their customers. Okay? The question you need to ask yourself is, how do you add value to these customers? Okay? You should also ask yourself that, okay, the clients that you work with, how do you add value to them? Okay, so this is the first aspect. Now, the other aspect are your key activities, your key partners, and your key resources. So for your key activities, what do you do? For your key resources, who you are and what you have. Unlike a business, your key resource, okay, is your skill, is your talent, is your potential that you have. And this is what you use to carry out the activities that help you to deliver value to your customers. And the other part is your key partners who can help you, okay, to deliver value to your customer. So all this amounts to your cost, what you give, okay, to be able to deliver value to your customers. And at the end of the day, you must get something, either in form of job satisfaction, fulfillment of your purpose, income, and all that. There must be a benefit. Okay, so you can't just be working and there is no benefit. You can't just be going to work every day and you cannot say that, okay, this is what I get. So by the time you begin to adopt a business model thinking, you can see how, okay, you are adding value. You can see where you can add value. You can see how you can relate to the people that you are adding value to. You can identify your key resources. You can identify your key activities. Then you can identify the people that should support you. And at the same time, you know what cost you have to give to be able to get what you want. Either it is, okay, job satisfaction, either it is work-life balance, either it is fulfilling your purpose. Adopting a business model approach, I believe, is the way to go. Because we are operating in a world where the same factors that are affecting the businesses that are either doing well or closing down today are affecting us as individuals in our career management. So why should we fold our hands and begin to use the same old method that we have used to manage our career when things are changing? When we should be thinking of what will I be doing tomorrow? What will I be doing in 10 years' time? A question that so many organizations are asking themselves now that, okay, with the rate of changes, what will happen to our business in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time? What do we need to start doing now? Many organizations are thinking like that. I am wondering why individuals that work in those organizations are not thinking the same way. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you today with this word. Begin to think differently about your career. Begin now to adopt a business model approach. The same approach that organizations are adopting, that some of them are disrupting their sectors, that some of them are doing things that are new, that some of them are bringing in new products that people are rushing to buy, while at the same time, some are going down. It is not my wish, and I believe it is also not your wish, that sometimes later you find out that you don't have a career again. Or sometimes later you just realize that what you held on to before is no longer there. The best way to begin to think about your career now is to adopt a business model approach. Thank you very much for listening, and I want to wish you a successful career transition.